Hey, before you scroll, hear this. There's a woman I can't forget. Not because she changed my life, but because she reminded me what it means to feel alive. You know, that kind of presence that doesn't fade even when it's gone. That's her. She became the quiet echo in every decision, the unspoken name behind every small victory. I've built things, lost things, moved forward, and still her name keeps returning like gravity, pulling thought back to its orbit. Maybe you've known someone like that too, someone whose absence still feels like company. What nobody told me is that forgetting isn't the opposite of love. It's just the silence after the echo, and sometimes silence is louder than sound. So tonight, I want to speak to her, or maybe to the part of you that understands her, because this isn't about romance anymore. It's about truth, presence, and the echoes we live with. If you're still here, stay with me. I'm going to reveal something at the end that you don't want to miss. And if you're interested, subscribe to my channel. I still remember the first moment I realized she wasn't just another memory. It wasn't a flashback or a photograph. It was quieter than that, like a whisper caught between heartbeats. You never plan to carry someone like that. It just happens. Some part of them fuses with who you are, and you stop knowing where their presence ends and your own mind begins. They say time heals everything. I believe that until I learned that healing doesn't always mean erasing. Some wounds become windows. You don't close them. You just learn to look through them differently. That's what she became for me, a window. Through her, I saw the parts of myself I had buried under ambition, noise, control. She reminded me what it meant to feel, not just function. And that's what unsettled me, because for years I built my life on logic, systems, momentum. But she entered like a glitch in the equation. Beautiful, irrational, human. She didn't compete with my purpose, she exposed it. She showed me that love isn't a distraction from the mission, it's the reason the mission matters. Tell me, have you ever met someone who made everything around you slow down? Someone who made silence feel full? Who turned your usual restlessness into calm curiosity? That's what she did. And the strange part is, she didn't even try. She just existed fully. And that fullness rearranged my sense of time. But here's what nobody told me. When someone enters your life that deeply, they don't really leave. Even when they walk away, a part of them keeps riding inside you. Sometimes it's a voice, sometimes just a warmth. Sometimes it's an echo, faint but faithful. I used to fight it. I tried to turn the page, delete the chapter, rewrite the ending with someone else's name, but the echo always found its way back. The truth is, some names are not meant to fade. They're meant to remind you, not of what you lost, but of what you're still capable of. Wait, before you scroll, hear this. If someone is still echoing inside you, it doesn't always mean unfinished business. Sometimes it means unfinished becoming. She didn't stay to complete a story. She stayed as proof that I'm still learning how to love in silence, not through possession. Love that asks for nothing, demands nothing, but still shows up in the spaces between breaths. And yet, there are nights when that presence feels heavier than absence. I lie awake thinking, what if I never meet someone who makes me feel that alive again? What if she was the only person who ever saw me clearly beyond my ambitions, beyond the walls I built to impress the world? That's the risk with people who touch your truth. They don't leave you with closure, they leave you with clarity. And clarity can be cruel when you crave certainty. For years, I thought love was supposed to move forward, to evolve into something visible, a relationship, a commitment, a shared timeline. But she taught me something softer. She taught me that love isn't always built. Sometimes it's simply honored. She reminded me that presence is not about proximity. It's about awareness. You can be with someone every day and still feel oceans apart. And you can be miles away from someone and still feel them breathing beside you. That's when I understood that distance doesn't define connection. Consciousness does. There was a day, maybe 2 years after she left, when I was walking through a crowd, Ed City Street, and suddenly her memory walked beside me. Not as a ghost, not as pain, but as gratitude. I realized I didn't miss her anymore. I missed the version of myself that existed when she was near, the one that believed love could still surprise me. And that's when everything changed. Because love, when it's true, doesn't freeze you in time. It sets you free in it. It asks you to grow into someone worthy of what you once felt. But the ego resists that, doesn't it? We want control. We want answers, reasons, outcomes. We want to label everything that moves us. I did too. I wanted to know why she came, why she left, why the universe let our paths collide only to diverge again. And then one night I realized something. Maybe love doesn't need to make sense. Maybe it just needs to make meaning. She was never here to stay, she was here to awaken. Her absence became the teacher, her silence became scripture. Every unanswered message, every memory unshared, it all became part of the same lesson. Presence begins when attachment ends. You know that feeling when someone's name crosses your mind for no reason, and it feels like the air around you knows it too. That's not coincidence. That's communication at the level of soul. We talk through energy long after words run out. She became that kind of dialogue in my life, one that doesn't require replies, only recognition. But to be honest, I wasn't ready to accept that at first. I wanted something tangible, something I could hold. I wanted the story to continue, not dissolve into poetry. Yet maybe that's what love ultimately is. The willingness to let beauty remain unfinished. There's a strange irony in it all. The deeper the love, the rarer the closure. Because love that real doesn't end, it transforms. And transformation doesn't come with announcements or endings. It just shifts the way light enters you. I started noticing it in the small moments. The way sunsets suddenly looked like forgiveness. The way laughter from strangers echoed like second chances. The way her name felt less like loss and more like rhythm. That's when I stopped trying to forget and started learning how to live with remembrance. Still, there are days when the memory hits harder than expected. A song, a word, a place. Suddenly, I'm back there reliving everything with brutal clarity. But then this calm understanding follows. Not every memory is meant to hurt. Some are meant to heal you by showing how far you've come. That's what growth feels like. Remembering without repeating, accepting the echo without needing it to stop. Look at me when I say this. The reason some people linger in our hearts is because they spoke a truth we weren't ready to keep alive ourselves. They carried light into corners we had forgotten. And when they left, that light stayed, forcing us to continue their work within. That's what she did for me. She became the mirror I couldn't turn away from. Have you ever looked at someone and realized they saw your pot and shoal before you earned it? That's terrifying and beautiful at once. She didn't love my success. She loved my stillness. The version of me that wasn't performing, wasn't defending, wasn't trying to prove. Maybe that's why it hurt so much to lose her, because I lost the only witness who saw me before I edited myself. But here's the shift. Over time, I learned to become my own witness. I started talking to myself the way she once did, with gentleness, with belief, with patience. I stopped punishing myself for still caring. Love doesn't expire. It simply matures, right? And mature love doesn't chase, it blesses. Wait, hear this part carefully. The moment you stop wishing for someone's return and start wishing for their peace, that's when love turns sacred. That's when longing turns into liberation. She taught me that too, though she'll never know. People talk about closure as if it's an event. It's not. It's a decision. It's the moment you stop reaching backward and start walking forward with what still echoes behind you. You don't silence the echo. You harmonize with it. And maybe that's what remembering really is. Not clinging, not grieving, just listening deeply enough to turn pain into music. I don't think she'll ever hear this message, but if she somehow does, I want her to know this. Thank you. Thank you for changing everything by simply being real. Thank you for reminding me that emotional truth is more powerful than accomplishment, because the greatest love stories aren't the ones that end in happily ever after. They're the ones that end with growth, gratitude, and grace. She gave me all three. Now when her name returns, it no longer aches, it blesses. It doesn't pull me backward, it brings me present. It reminds me that connection is eternal, not because people stay, but because meaning does. Every echo eventually finds peace. Every unfinished story finds silence. And sometimes silence says it all. So if you're listening to this tonight, wherever you are, know that someone once changed me just by being themselves. And maybe that's the only kind of love worth remembering. The kind that frees both hearts without erasing either one. And if you've ever had someone like that too, don't run from the memory. Honor it. Let it remind you that you were open once and you can be open again. Because love never really leaves. It just changes its language. There came a morning when I realized the echo had changed. It wasn't heavy anymore. It didn't pull me backward. It pulled me inward. That's how I knew something inside me had crossed a line no calendar could measure. You see, healing doesn't announce itself. It just appears one day like quiet sunrise light filtering through old curtains, touching the dust without shame. For a long time, I believed she held the key to my peace. I thought if I could just understand why it ended, I would finally be free. But clarity rarely comes from them. It comes from within us. And that's when I began to look at the show differently. Maybe it wasn't a haunting at all. Maybe it was guidance. When you stop chasing answers, you start hearing lessons. That's what the silence revealed. Her absence wasn't emptiness, it was space. Space for me to rebuild my trust in life. Not in her, not in any outcome, just in life itself. Strange how loss can teach you faith better than faith ever did. But here's what nobody told me. Trust doesn't return all at once. It arrives quietly like a slow tide reclaiming the shore after the storm. I stopped asking life for guarantees and started asking myself one question. Can I still believe in something good without proof? That's where rebirth begins. I stopped needing her to return. I started needing myself to show up. Tell me, have you ever looked at your reflection and realized it's time to stop waiting for permission to heal? That's where I was. One day, I looked in the mirror, and instead of wondering if I was enough for her, I asked if I was enough for myself. The silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt powerful. And that's when I understood love doesn't complete you. It reveals the unfinished parts. What you do afterward, that's where trust begins. Wait, before you drift off, hear this. There comes a time when you have to stop trying to understand someone's silence and start making peace with your own. The more I tried to decode her absence, the less I heard my truth. So I began simplifying everything. I stopped rehearsing old conversations. I stopped building stories around what ifs. I stopped expecting closure to arrive like a letter in the mail. Instead, I began living slowly, deliberately, consciously. I started journaling again, not to analyze, but to witness. I walked without headphones just to hear my thoughts breathe. I noticed how light changed through the hour. I started forgiving moments I couldn't explain. That's the secret rhythm of healing. Presence. It doesn't demand speed, it asks for stillness. Every time her name crossed my mind, I treated it like a gentle visitor instead of a ghost. Welcome back, I would whisper. Stay a while, then go. No resistance, no guilt, just grace. And something remarkable happened. The echo softened. It stopped sounding like her voice and started sounding like mine. The pain that once repeated now reminded me. The echo wasn't her memory calling anymore. It was my soul answering. You know that feeling when you finally realize the person you missed was never just them. It was who you became with them. That revelation humbled me. Because every connection, no matter how brief, leaves a blueprint for another version of us. She wasn't the one who got away, she was the one who showed me another way. I used to think letting go meant losing. Now I believe it means learning how to carry love differently. But then came a harder truth. Trust isn't built in peace, it's built in repetition. You rebuild it. Every morning you choose belief over bitterness. Every night you choose surrender over control. Every moment you keep your heart open when it'd be safer to keep it closed. And that's when I started noticing something strange. Life began responding, new opportunities, new faces, new energy. It wasn't that the universe gave me something new, it was that I had finally cleared enough space for grace to land. Because trust is space. It's allowing the unknown to do its quiet work. For years I wore control like armor. I thought if I could plan my purpose, predict my feelings, perfect my timing, I'd never hurt again. But love and life don't play by blueprints. We either meet them naked or we never meet them at all. Have you ever been afraid of your own peace? It sounds odd, I know, but sometimes chaos becomes familiarity. And when peace arrives, it feels foreign. That's how it felt for me at first. I didn't know how to sit with stillness without turning it into fear. But slowly, I learned that peace isn't the absence of movement. It's the quiet confidence that everything's moving as it should. That's where trust lives. In the empty spaces we used to fill with control, one evening while watching, the fading light hit my window. I caught myself smiling for no reason. No thought of her, no thought of anything missing, just gratitude. That moment didn't erase the past, it honored it. It told me I had finally crossed the invisible bridge between memory and meaning. But here's what nobody told me about growth. It's not dramatic, it's uncomfortable. Some days you feel free, other days you ache for the person you used to be, yet everything inside you whispers, keep going. That's how trust rebuilds. It whispers until it sings. Wait, hear this before it slips away. The reason trust takes time is because it requires gentleness. You can't force a heart to reopen by demanding it be ready. You nurture it. You give it small proofs of safety. You honor its rhythm. That's how selfrespect begins, not in grand declarations but in steady practice. And when that trust grows, life starts to mirror it back. Suddenly the unknown becomes less threatening. failure becomes feedback. Even love starts to feel lighter because you've learned that whatever happens, you won't abandon yourself again. That's what she unknowingly gave me, the gift of returning to myself. She taught me love without expectation, but life turned it into self-belief without condition. And that shift changed everything. I started dreaming again, but not out of lack, out of faith. I started working again, but not for validation, for alignment. I began believing that peace wasn't a reward you earn. It's a language you must learn to speak. Tell me, when was the last time you trusted that where you are right now is exactly enough? That the detour is the destination? That heartbreak and its strange mercy might actually be divine redirection? Because that's what her story became for me. A detour that showed me my true north. Now when I think of her, I don't relive the details. I feel the on. The compass she left behind isn't meant to point to her. It points to the places inside me I once neglected. That doesn't make her memory any less powerful. In fact, it makes it sacred. In every entrepreneur, every dreamer, every person who's ever loved deeply, there's always a turning point like this. When longing becomes fuel, when pain becomes portal, when memory becomes mission. Because love and purpose, when honest, are never separate. They orbit the same gravity. You know what I realized? The reason she keeps echoing isn't because I miss her. It's because she became my first language of trust. She taught me to believe in connection beyond evidence, in timing beyond control, in endings that aren't failures but transitions. So now, every time I feel that echo rise again, I let it. Because echoes aren't meant to fade, they're meant to guide. Some nights I still whisper her name, not to call her back, but to thank her, because the echo that once filled my loneliness now fills my strength. It rings like truth, and maybe that's how all real love ends, not in silence but in resonance. You start to realize the person you can't forget is not the one you need to hold on to. It's the part of yourself they awaken. That's the gift hidden in goodbye. Here's the irony. Once I stopped meeting her to validate my purpose, I became more aligned with it. My work started to carry emotion again. My vision softened, but my ambition focused. I began creating from wholeness instead. Hunger. Love didn't slow me down. It refined my aim. That's when I understood something profound. There's no success without intimacy with your own truth, and there's no intimacy without vulnerability. She taught me both. So now I lead differently. I love differently. I trust differently. Not with certainty, but with faith. Faith that what belongs will find me. Faith that absence doesn't mean failure. Faith that every echo has its reason. If she could hear this now, I think she'd smile because she always believed I'd reach this space. She saw me becoming long before I did. And so this message isn't just for her anymore. It's for anyone who's still standing between loss and renewal. Anyone afraid that love made them weaker when really it made them wiser. Don't rush.